Okay, Acts chapter 6 and verse 1. Let's see. But the believers, as the believers rapidly multiplied, there were grumblings of discontent. Guys, Christians, and you guys who spend the most time with Christians know this. Christians are a group of people. And if you get any group of people together, you're going to have conflicts. It doesn't matter if they're Christians. It doesn't matter if they're Buddhist monks. Okay? It doesn't matter if they're anybody else. Every group of people that you get together, they're going to butt heads. They're going to rub each other the wrong way sometimes. And I hear a lot of people who complain about this, and they say, well, I don't go to church because Christians are just a bunch of hypocrites. Well, yeah, that's awesome. You'd fit right in. Because we all are. We're all hypocrites. If you find a perfect church, do me a favor. Don't tell me about it. Because if I go there, I'm going to ruin it. Okay? That's what we see here. This is 3 years into the beginning of the church. And already there's people butting heads. The Greek-speaking believers complained about the Hebrew-speaking believers, saying that their widows were being discriminated against in the daily distribution of food. I don't think anybody was purposely being discriminatory over race or ethnicity or anything like that. The truth is, everybody has blind spots. Even leaders in the church. We don't always mean to overlook people or hurt people's feelings. Sometimes there's things that we're unaware of, backstories that we don't know. Sometimes we've had a really bad day. Sometimes we're going through a period of life where we're being a little self-centered. We don't mean to hurt people's feelings, just like you. You don't mean to hurt people's feelings. Sometimes you do. Sometimes I do. But for the most part, we try. Everybody tries to get along with people and treat people kindly and with respect. But on some level, all humans do this. And all people have had this done to them. I was walking into Costco with Molly a couple of months ago. And we were not going into the main store. We were going into the food court just to pick up pizza. You remember this, Molly? And as we're walking into the food court to pick up pizza, another youth pastor buddy of mine from Burley stops me. I don't notice it. So Molly's like, Mike, Jacob Hartman, he's trying to get it. And I turn around and Jacob Hartman is following me. And I'm like, oh, dude, Jacob. And he's like, oh, Mike, how's it going? And I'm like, oh, man, I'm going through it with my kids. Some of them are being kind of turds. And I'm walking as I'm talking to him. And he's just a step behind me. But I'm talking to him like this as we're walking. And then, he's like, well, Mike, I'll be praying for you for that. And we stop and he's like, I got to get going, and goes back the other way. I thought the whole time we were walking in the same direction, while in reality, I was being a gigantic jerk, walking away from him while he's talking to me. And he's trying to have a conversation with me, and I won't stop and have a conversation with him because I'm so fixated on the idea of putting pizza in my face. I didn't mean to hurt his feelings, but I know that I did. And once it was pointed out to me by Molly, I texted him right away and I apologized. And he was gracious and he forgave me. So what do we do? How do we handle it when somebody hurts our feelings by ignoring us or doing or saying something that hurts our feelings? Well, we try not to react right away or jump to conclusions or assume their motivations. We give them as much grace as we can. We try to see them through the lens that we hope we would be seen through and try to recognize if it was on purpose or if it was just an unintended blind spot. Have grace. Ignore the offense if you can, but if you really can't ignore it, bring it up as gently and graciously as you can. And how do we handle it when we find that we are the ones who have unintentionally hurt someone's feelings? Well, first step, don't get defensive. That is literally the worst thing that you could do. Try to defend yourself. Instead, assess yourself. Some folks honestly get offended by the easiest stuff simply because you won't agree with their point of view, even if you have done everything you can to be fair and kind. I've been in youth ministry for 14 years. About 7 years ago, I had a kid in youth group who would talk during youth group. He would be on his phone during youth group. He would literally put chairs together and nap while I was teaching. And after a while, I noticed that as he was doing these things, the way that he was treating me, other younger kids, this guy was like a junior or a senior, other younger kids started doing the same thing. So I pulled this dude aside and I said, man, I love you. I had known this dude since the day he was born. And I love this kid. And I said, man, I love you, but I need you to know something. You're a leader. And he hated that. I said, whether you like it or not, you're a leader. You have influence over people. This was before you guys used the word Riz, but this guy had actual charisma. People, what? That's what? I can say it too. It's just 4 stinking letters that make sounds, okay? Riz, Alicia, Riz. No cap, dog, okay? Anyway, this kid had charisma. He was a natural born leader, and what he did, other people would do. And I told him, so you can either use that, and other people are going to be a turd if you're a turd, or other people are going to follow God if you follow God. And later on, like he shaped up. Later on, his mom came to me and said, thank you so much for saying that to my son. He was so pissed off at you for that. He hated hearing that. But I did it with as much love and grace for him as I possibly could. But sometimes we find that we have actually done something wrong unintentionally, and it truly was our fault. So do everything you can to make it right. It's really that simple. It's about humbling yourself. When the apostles found out that they had done something unconsciously biased in their ministry to widows, they didn't get defensive or defend themselves. They fixed it. Because their highest priority was no longer their egos. Their highest priority was God's kingdom and the reputation of King Jesus. Ephesians chapter 4, verses 1 through 6 says, I therefore, a prisoner of the Lord, urge you to walk in a manner worthy of the calling which you have been called, with all humility and gentleness, with patience, bearing with one another in love, eager to maintain the unity of the Spirit and the bond of peace. There is one body and one Spirit, just as you were called to one hope that belongs to your call. One Lord, one faith, one baptism, one God and Father of all, who is over all and through all in all. The church, not the building that we gather in, but the people that we gather with, which is what the church actually is the most visible expression of God's kingdom to the world, of King Jesus to the people around us. So we do whatever we can to make sure that we as the church are representing Jesus in a way that is true to who he is. And that's the most important thing. But stupid, unintended offenses can be the devil's way of knocking us off mission if we let him. That's why we must deal with each other in gentleness, patience, and love.